we are going to have a conversation tonight. And on my left, we have the younger generation, and on my right, the older generation. This evening is an intergenerational dialogue. Intergenerational both on the front stage as well as at the audience level. So please, when the time comes for the talking to happen, don't hold back. This is what is going to happen tonight. The people on my left, who are the younger generation, will each give a 5-minute presentation, 5-minute statement about what the themes of tonight mean for them. These are students from UCT, the three here, Lumi, Samantha, and Bumi. They're all students. They're involved in the studying of these issues on different levels. And at the extreme end is Eunice. Eunice is a founder, one of the founder members of the organization called Sisters for Sisters. They will each speak, and at the end of when they've completed their speeches, the older generation will have their say. They too will have 5 minutes. There is no more time simply because they are older. They will have 5 minutes each. And then the younger people have asked me to give them time to ask the older generation at least one question. And so there will be that process in the first part of the evening. Then we turn it over to you, to the audience, to engage with the speakers as you wish. Please, I urge you again, and I will urge you again, to switch off your phones, to be very concise in the way you ask your questions or make your comments, so that the conversation can move. We'll have the round of questions or conversation, and then the group Sisters for Sisters will give us a performance, a 10-minute performance, based on one of the stories of the women, the stories of the domestic violence of one of the women. So without much further ado, I'm going to call upon Samantha to tell us what for her these things tonight mean. What does this issue of women's struggle mean for you, and how is it connected to your own work? Again, 5 minutes, please. You may sit where you are and then just have a conversation with us. Thank you.
Hi there, thank you. Thanks to all of you for coming. I'm very glad to be here. My name is Samantha, and I'm starting my doctoral studies in the psychology department. Over the last couple of years, my postgraduate studies, I've done research, honors level, master's level, with abused women. On the honors level, I research women in a community called Garden Village, and at the master's level, I looked at women in abused women's shelters in Manenberg and Mitchell's Plain. And all the years through my work, there was something that was just missing, an element that I needed to fulfill. I wasn't quite sure what it was yet. And then it finally came to me. I was worried. I wanted to try to find a way that would make my research, my work, more meaningful, to give back to these women that I studied, and not just walk in and out their lives. So I began to wonder how I could possibly do this. And then I met Eunice from Sisters for Sisters. And Eunice told me what they were doing in the group. It's a support group for women refugees from East African countries, also South African women. And I went to a few of their meetings in the beginning, Woodstock Library. And the meetings involved, there were spaces where the women came together and they discussed their experiences of abuse, other experiences, whatever was meaningful for them. And I was amazed at this work. And I got involved with the group to try and conduct workshops that were more structured. I started working with Eunice in this way, and the group actually inspired me, among other things, Pumla also one of them, to engage in my doctoral work. And what I'm doing with the group, I'm involved with the group at an everyday level, and we run the workshops, and structured workshops to do with topics of abuse, topics of HIV/AIDS, topics of xenophobia, and then doing these storytelling sessions, role plays about abuse, and having discussions afterwards, which will later, when I do my data gathering, be part of my data gathering procedures. And my work with the group, we all speak of kinds of participatory action research, the benefits of this approach, and how it empowers women, how it can create information that can help us better respond to the specific issues that communities face. But for me, working with this group of women and seeing the challenges on a day-to-day basis that these women face, the issues became very real to me. And I can only say that working on such a level with these women is going to enrich my research. I would say my role is not to come into this group and provide information that I have, but it's to help the women strengthen these collective processes and these systems, these ways of developing their own agency that they have already developed. But it's about going into their community and enriching these processes by giving what I have to give to the woman. And what I'd like to say is I'd like to motivate and inspire anyone who goes out there and does research about something that is passionate, something that is close to their heart, and to try and figure out ways that we can work on meaningful levels. Often as students we think that we can't really give much back to communities, but I think you can, and I think every little bit makes a huge difference. Here are all the women sitting here. Thank you to all of you for coming. What I would like to say is what's important to my heart when it comes to thinking about women's struggles is to start thinking about ways that we can bridge this gap between academia, between research, and communities that are living, dealing with these struggles every single day. And this is not only about doing research that works with communities, that engages in communities, but it's about developing lasting relationships, sustainable relationships between people in academia and between the ladies who exist on these grassroots levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. I'm always fascinated by how students who have these kinds of passions will always have the passions. I've been privileged to be your teacher as well as Rumbi at undergraduate level and your supervisor. And it's amazing the kinds of students who continue with these concerns about communities, about social responsiveness, which is really what the message that they're giving us tonight. Engaging in social responsiveness and linking that work to their own research. It's amazing how they've been consistent. Rumbi has been too. So I'd like you to share with us, Rumbi, your own involvement in this work.
Hi. My story is similar to Samantha's in a few ways, but it's also it diverges in some ways. But like Pumla says, and like Samantha was, I've been interested in issues around social change and specifically issues pertaining to women for a really long time. I guess since my teens, I only developed the language and sort of personal infrastructure to do something about it once I got to university. But so like Samantha, my honours research, third year research, even honours research, was looking at issues around women. When I was in my undergraduate, I did a project on teenagers and expressing gender in teenagers. And then in my honours, I did a project on women who choose not to have children, even though they can, and the issues around their femininity and the different stories of womanhood that they tell. And throughout this, even though it seems like my research has kind of been all over the place, the theme is women generally. So if anything involves women, I get interested. But the theme is, and I've been thinking a lot about this this past week as I wrap up my own research, is stories. So what's important to me with regard to this theme is women's stories. The stories we tell about our stories, the stories women tell each other, and the stories women hear on a daily basis from one another. And my current research, or the research that I've just wrapped up, was looking at feminist activism at Rape Crisis Cape Town Trust. They're an NGO, a Cape Town NGO that was formed in 1976 in response to the dearth of resources for survivors of rape. So they're 34 years old, and they've changed a lot over the course of their 34 years. But basically what they do is they provide services for free to women who have survived rape. And they're also advocates for legislative reform around issues of sexual violence. And it was so far, the most overwhelming project that I've done. Certainly wasn't prepared for a lot of the stuff that came up while I was doing it. But the main thing that came up for me as I was considering the relationship of these women's lived feminist activism and the feminist theory that I engage with at university is also around how do we bridge the gap between the two. And I guess what I've come to find out is that my taken for granted assumption that there is a gap, that there's necessarily a gap between the two, is also something that I should be questioning. So, in a South African setting, in a post-colonial setting, where feminisms are just starting to develop their own narratives apart from their Western sisters, what does it mean to learn through doing? So what does it mean to be developing theory at the same time as you're developing activism? What is the nature of the complex relationship between the two? And can we really necessarily say that they're different processes? And if they are the same process, do we see them as the same? Are they treated as the same? And so basically thinking around feminisms for me have always been narrated as divided. And my journey has been about questioning the narrative of divisions. So is academic feminism really that divorced from the stuff on the ground? You know, and is there a different way of looking at the movement, of looking at the story of women's movement in South Africa that doesn't focus so much on the division, but focuses on how the academic stuff and the stuff on the ground is being co-created and is feeding into each other. So that's basically what I've been interested in, and it's also kind of a very personal mission for me as I am slowly moving out of academia, hopefully soon, and trying to figure out how I'm going to enact feminism in the world in a way that's meaningful. So using the stuff that I've been engaging with for the last 6 years in a meaningful way, and not just writing about it and reading about it. So that's what concerns me, and that's been my struggle.
Thank you so much, Ruby. You know, as you were speaking, in this hall this evening, there are women from all over Cape Town, around Cape Town. The Sisters for Sisters. There's a group of women from Khayelitsha who are here, who have been involved in the very issues that you are studying. I mean, when you speak about activism, women, Sisters for Sisters, the women, I see Nolita and Dalasi, who leads a community organization of women in the audience. And these women do the work that you write about, and the languaging of the work within academia sometimes sounds, separate from what women on the ground are doing, because women are just doing. I mean, the women that I just mentioned, they just work bayasebenza, as they say, bavuka bayosebenza, and yet we have to think about the conceptualizing of this process and writing about it. And so what you have been sharing with us, the struggle to bridge, the divide, is really very fascinating. And so thank you very much. And now, over to you, Mpumi. Mpumi is no stranger to conversations and to stories, and some of you from UCT may remember her. She led that conversation called Black Rights, White Fears. Yes, so there you go. Mpumi.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you. I think it's on here. Okay. Hello everyone, thank you for your presence here today, and I think it astounds me when I see how society is in fact moving. It is moving, despite some of the stagnancy that I see around.